warrior, I am going to jump on the bandwagon and talk about the music business. But first, I am going to urge you, implore you to follow Lynn's Warriors, because I've noticed when I look at the analytics that about 50% of you are subscribed and the other 50% are not. What are you waiting for? We need to build numbers. We need to build audience. We need to build community. I'm not shy about that. Let's now talk about the music business. If you followed me before, I have mentioned, although briefly, something I don't talk about a lot. I did start in an area of the music business. Years and years ago, out of college, I entered into the jingle world, which was creating original music for television commercials. So you dealt with ad agencies, you dealt with music studios, you dealt with musicians, songwriting. We did it all. I created music, wrote music, secured accounts with ad agencies, booked musicians, booked singers, spent time in the studios. I also worked during college in a music studio. Now, I won't be sharing the names of both of these places, but I'm going back now to the one during school, during college, the music studio. Now, I've always been kind of a no-nonsense type. So despite perhaps in those days looking like a club kid, for lack of a better analogy, I was always okay because I was always just kind of a serious person, working, schooling, that kind of thing. Now, in retrospect, I can look back and see how many times I was approached, how many times I had comments made. I'm bringing all this forward because I have to say the music business today has been in the headlines with Diddy or Puff Daddy. I'm not sure. His name is Diddy now. Whatever he's calling him. Sean Combs is what I call him. And I say thank goodness. Thank goodness. I could say something else, but it's a family show. Thank goodness, because I have heard things for years. I have known about things for years. Now, I can't, outright say things I heard about because I don't have actual proof. But to see a video today of this Sean Combs kicking Cassie in the head, dragging her around a hallway. My goodness, I'm glad it's breaking because you know what? I have a feeling, here's my question to you. Is the music business really a trafficking business? There are a lot of stories, a lot of situations percolating, a lot of things about this Sean Combs. My biggest question has always been, repeatedly, I would say to my husband, how are they affording, these $50 million mansions, $80 million mansions, $100 mansions, and have multiple homes? They're not putting out content, and certainly in the world we live in the last even 5 years, I am here to say very few are making money from their craft. How is that all being afforded? So now we have proof. We see this video. Why was it put out, released by CNN? Who had it? I'm sure there are lots more videos. Lots of things are percolating. But the whole rap music business, think about it. Is it about to tumble? Has it been tumbling? Are we keeping an eye on it? Because I don't know. I don't know how they afford all these things we see. Now, it seems like Sean Combs, here in New York, he had a club. I think it was on 40th Street. And he was dating, living with J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez at the time. And there was a couple of different gun situations, scenarios. There was one documented where he fled one night straight up 8th Avenue, threw a gun out the window of the bodyguard, some story such as that. And he got off of that case. She got off of that case. Fast forward, multiple other stories. What happened is 2 sons were arrested with that most recent raid, I guess you would call it, in California. That was pretty heavy duty. They wouldn't have broken in like that unless there was something going on. So I've got my same wheels turning that were turning with Jeffrey Epstein, which is, everybody does recording. Recording for blackmail purposes. But I got to ask, are people stupid? Because you got to know, perhaps, You could be getting recorded. You could be getting tricked, whether it's a Jeffrey Epstein, whether it's a Sean Combs or anybody else. And I've heard about plenty of other ones recording people, filming. Don't you think about these things? Like who's watching, who may be listening? I can't take any risks. I can't take any chances. Or is, as I have seen over the years, your ego so big and you're in that bubble and perhaps drug-addled, alcohol related perhaps, you don't care. You don't give a you-know-what. Well, I, for one, am glad that this has come forward with Cassie. She did this, the poor woman in that video. I don't care, and I want to hear that argument. No human being deserves to be dragged, kicked, beaten, punched, any of that stuff. Well, if you put a hand on a child, but we'll leave that for another program. But it's all breaking forth. I feel it. It's coming. It's time. But now we need to take action because I'm still waiting to hear about who owns the Jeffrey Epstein tapes, recordings, videos, whatever you may want to call them. I mean, seriously, why is Ghislaine Maxwell the only one in prison right now? And where is this Sean Combs? And how dare he be kicking somebody in the head and dragging them around? And various stories. Drake this week, if you're following any of this, has been having multiple break-ins and attacks up in Canada, where he's from. And there's other things percolating with all of these people. Remember the Suge Knight, Tupac, going back, that was in the 90s, somewhere here in New York, East Coast, West Coast. So I'm thinking perhaps this is just one big trafficking ring. Because I ask, where is all the money coming from? I also point all of this out because people think show business, music, the music business is so glamorous. It is grungy. It is dirty. It is ugly. I suggest you keep all of your children out of show business. Let them decide when they're 18. And even then, put guardrails up. Because let me share a few things. One, I'm going to change it around a little bit, not to have anybody guessing. I don't want to be like that baby reindeer show that seems to be the rage on Netflix where people are guessing identities. But so one young woman years ago found herself, she was actually really just breaking through and going to enter the charts, singing career, and was really slated to be a star. And she found herself pregnant. And she was very young, and everybody just suggested to her, not suggested, they were telling her, oh, of course you're going to have an abortion, you're going to have an abortion, you're having an abortion. And what she bravely did, even at that tender young age, is said to herself, I choose life over a music career. And she walked away. And she walked away. How brave is that? Because you know and I know, money wins out almost all the time. So she gave it all up. But had a beautiful baby. Fast forward, a couple of the women that I collaborate with, colleagues of mine, who are survivors of human trafficking, now realize they were victims in the music trade, in hip-hop, in rap. They didn't understand at the time. They were swayed by the celebrity. They were swayed by the travel. They were swayed by the drugs and the clothes and everything else that was afforded them. That lifestyle. So I know a couple of those young women that are now older now, still very young. Also one underage at the time. I think the music business, it's a trafficking business. That is my opinion. And I can only think about our kids, our vulnerable kids, because the percentage of those trafficked, it is something like, now the stats study, but the percentage is something like 90% have been sexually abused or physically abused at home. So those kids run away, or they'll do anything to get away, or they'll meet somebody online who tells them they're beautiful and they'll go off with them. But think about those stats. 90 something percent. So we have a lot of work to do. I just put a video out. We are launching our Warriors Youth Council. Isaiah Vega, a New Yorker, large family, an old soul who's got his feet on the ground. We are going to be announcing our launch event very shortly here in New York City. We need to engage, educate, and empower our youth so they don't fall victim to these crimes online, these vulnerabilities. May is May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We have a youth mental health crisis. So as the adults, so I want to keep you all aware of the Youth Council and much more coming down the pike about this one. We've got to start doing better by our children. And by children, I mean all children, whether they're 10 or they're 20 or maybe they're 30. We cannot allow what is going on. There are no guardrails. It's up to us. I always share with you our hashtag community creates change. It truly does. And I leave you with, last night, the Warriors was very honored and humbled to be part of Lifeway Network, which 2 safe houses here in New York, one in the Bronx, one in Queens, helping women reclaim their lives. Only one of 2 actual organizations in New York that has safe housing, a safe housing program. Unbelievable, right? 1 of 2 organizations. And that is the common thing I hear out of law enforcement. Lynn, we don't have facilities to put people. Shameful. So we got to get in there with the Warriors Youth Council, intervene, prevent, not have new victims of this trafficking, this exploitation. And we have to start talking about nobody's giving you anything for free. As a matter of fact, I got a text message to my phone today, and I said to my husband, this is most certainly a trafficking situation. It is something like, hi, my name is a woman's name, and you need no experience, and you can make $200 to $800 cash a day. Here's the WhatsApp number. Contact me now. Now, can you imagine if a 15-year-old girl gets that and says, wow, $200 to $800, no experience. Let me just see what this is. The scenario might be the person contacts back and says some very nice things. A vulnerable teen, as an example, I'm telling you this, might start the conversation, the discussion. One thing leads to another, some intimate details, and just overall details, where you live, who your parents are, your dog's name, sister or brother's name. This vulnerable child could be leaking, could be talking about. Perhaps even an image, a nude image will be exchanged. And boom, we know the kids are so vulnerable and giving away so much information to strangers that they can become a victim of sextortion, especially our teenage boys. So if I'm getting these messages, imagine our poor kids. So we need a Warriors Youth Council as we work. We're going to work alongside our youth to empower them, to inoculate them against this predation. Because I have to tell you, there are few programs, lifewaynetwork.org, wonderful, a 1-year program. Women can put their head on a pillow at night, reclaim their lives, eat a meal in a dining room, be with other women, get the services they need, help eventually with job search, job training. That is what is needed. So we need to help and support survivors, but we need to intervene so we don't have these victims. And you got to get this showbiz. It's over. Hollywood. over celebrity influence over the times have changed, warriors. It's no longer what it was. Keep your kids away from it. Keep yourselves away from it. Let's reconvene and talk about the music business, because I think it's one big trafficking business. That is what, in 2024, in thinking back, what I experienced, what was there, stories, countless stories from women associated with the music business. It is nothing but a criminal enterprise. Please subscribe. Thank you for listening, donating, volunteering. We're going to have a lot coming up with our Warriors Youth Council live events. And remember each and every day, protect within your home and your community. That is where you are needed most. So we pound on those doors, walk those hallways up in Albany, our state capital, and also in D.C. That is necessary. Legislation. Pound away in your own home. Be that warrior. The pendulum is swinging ever so slightly back. Believe you me when I tell you this. There's a bipartisan bill just introduced to update Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. Now, I don't want to get all technical, but that merely was created in 1996 when the internet was born, saying that big tech, these are billboards, these are newsstands. So any material, postings, people can't be held responsible, these big tech platforms, because after all, they're just the newsstand. That was 1996, almost 30 years ago. It is time to sunset that Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act and have new guardrails to that. Update it. Remember, the law always lags behind technology, but with AI, we got to get on top of it. Keep listening. Keep following along. Share the video. And remember, each and every day, be a warrior.